Hello and welcome to the 3Bs podcast, where we go beyond the numbers and get into what actually makes a business work. I'm your host, Stephanie Marshall, founder of ABCS UK, a multi-award-winning boutique finance and systems partner. I help business owners who've outgrown the basics bring clarity, structure and proper systems into their business so things finally feel in control. If you want more clarity, more confidence, and a business that doesn't feel like constant chaos, you're in the right place. Each week we tackle real problems, answer the questions you're probably already thinking, and give you practical steps you can actually use in around 15 minutes. So if you're ready to build a better business with confidence and clarity, then let's go. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 3Bs podcast, your go-to place for around 15 minutes of motivation, education, and inspiration to help you build a better business each week. If we haven't met before, my name is Stephanie Marshall. I am the founder of ABCS UK, a multi-award-winning boutique finance and systems partner, and I help growing businesses who have outgrown their bookkeeper move from messy reactive finances to clear, structured numbers and systems they can actually use to run their business properly, because I really care about the people behind the business, not just the numbers. Now, today's episode is going to be a little bit more direct because this is something that I see all the time. And it sounds like, I think I'm doing okay. I feel like it's working. I'm pretty sure I can afford that. And on the surface, those sound fine. They sound confident. They sound positive. But underneath all of them is guessing. Let me be really clear. Guessing is not a strategy. It's not planning. It's not control. It's making decisions with enough information and hoping they work out. And for a while that works. And that's the dangerous part. Because in the early stages of business, you don't have all the information. You don't have systems. You don't have full visibility. So you rely on your gut instinct, you rely on speed, and you rely on reacting quickly. And that is fine. That is a part of building something. But there comes a point where your business is no longer small, where more money is moving, more decisions matter, and more responsibility sits with you. And at that point, guessing just doesn't feel uncomfortable. It becomes risky. Let's really break this down because most people don't realize how often that they're doing this. Guessing shows up when you set your prices based on what feels about right, what somebody else is charging. You agree to something without checking the impact. You don't make informed decisions, you just make decisions off the cuff. You assume you can afford something because the money's there in the bank. You avoid your numbers because nothing feels urgent, there's no immediate deadline for you. Or you make decisions quickly because you don't have the information to think it through. And individually, none of this really feels that dramatic. That's the problem here. It feels normal and it happens all the time. But there's a compounding effect here because over time, each small guess stacks up. And then suddenly you're in a position where things feel completely unclear in your business. Decisions feel heavier and you're not quite sure where you stand. And that's when stress starts creeping in. There's something I like to call the bank balance trap. And I want to properly talk about this because it's the biggest one. You open your banking app, you see a number and you make a decision. If it's high, yeah, I'm fine. If it's low, I need to do something. I need to make more sales. But that number is misleading because it's incomplete. It doesn't tell you what belongs to the HMRC for VAT, PAYE and national insurance, your corporation tax or income tax, what's already been spent but not left yet, if you have terms with your suppliers, if you have committed to a sponsorship or an advertisement deal but not yet spent the money, or what's coming up. What overheads do you have in the next 30 days that needs to come out of that bank balance? It also doesn't tell you what's actually yours. For example, if you see £10,000 in your business bank account and you think, great, I can invest in that course or that mentor. But what's not visible is that VAT that's due, the tax that is building up. If you're a sole trader, that's your income tax. If you're a limited company, that's your corporation tax. And the expenses that are still to come out. So that decision to make that investment was based on incomplete information. The other side of this is you log into your bank and you only see £3,000 and you panic. You need more clients. You're like, I have to find more clients. I need to make more sales. But actually, your costs are low, tax is already accounted for and set aside into a pot, and your profit is stable. So now you're making that decision based on fear and not fact. Now I want you to just pause for a second. When you look at your bank balance, are you using it to make decisions or to reassure yourself? Because those are very different things, and both of them need a little more investigation. Another problem with guessing is it creates a false sense of confidence quite often. You feel like you're making decisions, you feel like you're moving forward, but underneath that, there is this uncertainty. Uncertainty is exhausting, even if you don't fully realize it. So you're probably thinking to me, Stephanie, okay, so what does running your business properly even mean? And this is the part where business owners get it wrong all the time, because they think I need to understand everything. And you don't. You need clarity, not complexity. We don't need to make this more complicated. You don't need to be a finance expert. It's unlikely that you started your business to be an accountant or a bookkeeper. That's not what you started to run your business for. I'm not saying you need to know every tax law. What I'm saying is you just need to be clear and have clarity. Clarity looks like being able to answer these few questions. What am I actually making? What is this actually costing me? What do I need to set aside? And what's coming up next, without hesitation. Now, this does not need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be done absolutely to the penny, but it needs to be confident. You need to be confident in the answers to those questions. What am I actually making? What is the sales expected to come in this month? What actual money is meant to come in this month from those sales? Do you invoice out on terms? If the sale is made in April, May, are you receiving the money for that in 30, 60 days time? Or is it somebody, or are you going to receive the money straight away? What is this costing me is what overheads need to be taken out of that income? What things do you need to spend money on in order to provide that service, to create that product, to ship it out? What are these costs that need to be taken into consideration? And it is not just the cost to make or provide and deliver that product or service. It's your overheads too. It's your staff wages. It's lighting and heating. What are those costs attributed to the income that's coming in? What do I need to set aside? Do I need to set aside 20% for VAT? Do I need to set aside personal tax? Do I need to set aside corporation tax? Do I need to set aside tax and national insurance for the payroll? And what's coming up next? Is there suppliers I need to pay in the next 30 to 60 days that I have the goods for already, or it's an ongoing retainer service that funds are committed for? Because when you have that clarity over those 4 questions, decisions become quicker and easier and better and more confidently, knowing you are making the right decision. You've got all the information around you to make that decision. Having that clarity means that you will stop second guessing yourself. Can I actually afford this? Can we make this work? Should I invest in this? It stops overthinking because the data and the evidence is there. Facts are there for you to look at. And you stop reacting and firefighting, and you start thinking ahead. You start planning, you start leading, and you start running your business rather than letting your business run you. Now let's bring in the system side to this, because this is where clarity really helps. And despite what it may sound like, clarity doesn't just come from looking at your numbers. It comes from how those numbers are managed. Without systems and processes in place, information is delayed, things are inconsistent, and visibility is patchy at best. And that just pulls you right back into guessing. Systems are important because they create consistency, they create visibility, and they create reliability. So instead of I need to check everything, you have I already know where I stand. And when you systemize and write processes for everything in your business, you're not carrying that mental load with you. You're not holding on to have to remember to do that thing for that specific client. There's this particular nuance with this particular client. This client likes things laid out in this way. This client needs more support, or this client has dyspraxia and needs help with their numbers. Without systems, you sit down, you try to work things out, and you just piece things together. That's not sustainable if you want to grow and build a business, which I presume you do by watching or listening to this podcast. Once those systems are in place, you can look, you can understand, and you can decide. And it's that simple. That's the difference. I'm going to be really honest. People often avoid this. And the reason that people often avoid this is because it feels uncomfortable. It feels like something they should already know. And it feels easier to leave it or bury their head in the sand. I have so many clients that come to me and say, Stephanie, you make this easy. I know I should know this, but you only know what you know. You are not an expert in finances. Therefore, you shouldn't already know it unless you've been taught it in a way that you understand. At ABCS UK, we use jargon. We are not a company that go, I don't use jargon. I use jargon all the time. But I also explain it in an easy to understand way with examples and until the client fully understands it. So that next time they hear inflation being talked about on the news, they actually know what they're talking about rather than just carrying on blindly. And if you are avoiding it, it will work until it doesn't. There is always a tipping point if you are guessing. Either when something doesn't add up, something catches you out, or something just feels a bit off. And that's when business owners quite often realize that they should have looked at this sooner. The truth is, you cannot build a stable, scalable business on guesswork alone. You can grow on guesswork, absolutely, but you can't sustain it. And if you're looking to build a better business, which I presume you are by watching or listening to this podcast, guesswork is just not going to cut it. Ask yourself this. If you had to make a big decision in your business tomorrow, would you be confident or would you be hoping you could figure it out? Because that's the difference we're talking about. If you would be hoping that you could make it figure it out, like a lot of the time it's an off-the-cuff decision, then we need to start looking at putting systems and processes in place so that you can grow and build this business confidently. The shifts that need to happen is going from saying things like, I think I'm okay, to I know exactly where I stand when it comes to the business. You need to shift from guessing to making decisions confidently and with clarity. And we need to shift from being reactive and firefighting to fully in control. As with every episode of the 3Bs podcast, I want to give you one thing to do this week that will make a difference in your business. This week, and you can probably guess what I'm going to say, I want you to stop guessing your numbers. I want you to actually look at them. Set aside 20 minutes this week and answer these 3 questions. What did I actually make last month? What sales came in? What costs went out? What profit did I actually make last month? What do I currently owe or need to set aside for bills or taxes? And what's coming up in the next 30 days? That's it. And I'm not asking for perfect, detailed, complicated spreadsheets. Just be clear, because clarity starts with visibility. And by this time next week, if you do that, you will feel more in control than you do right now. And if you need some accountability, send them to me on social media. Let me know what your questions are, and I'll send back my answers too. So business owner, if you are currently making decisions based on your bank balance, gut feeling, or a little bit of hope it'll work itself out, this is your moment to change that. Because your business deserves better than guesswork. It deserves clarity. It deserves structure. And it deserves decisions that you can stand behind confidently and wholeheartedly. If you found this episode useful, please do like, rate, and review. It takes you a couple of seconds, but it really does help more business owners find this podcast so we can all build better businesses. There's no gatekeeping here. And if you want support building clear structured numbers and systems into your business so that you can actually run it properly, that's exactly what we do at ABCS UK. The link is in the show notes. If you want to book 15 minutes in my diary, go and find the link and book in, and I'll talk to you soon, because your business really does deserve better. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next week for the next episode of the 3Bs podcast. Bye. And that brings us to the end of another episode of the 3Bs podcast. If this has helped you think differently about your business, then it's done its job. Make sure you're following or subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And if you found it useful, please do leave a review. It helps more business owners find this and start running their businesses properly. If you want more insights behind the scenes and the reality of what it actually takes to build a better business, come and connect with me on social media. And if you're ready to stop guessing and start running your business with clarity, structure, and confidence, your next step is just a click away, because your business deserves better. I'll see you in the next episode.